All right, all right. Welcome back to Real Estate Bites, my friends. Coming at you most Fridays on your lunch hour, giving you some good tidbits to chew on over the weekend in regards to the real estate market. Mostly local, but we talk about things national. Today, the topic of today is something that is just about real estate in general. I came across this article. Let me pull it up here. All right. The 5-star recipe that could help you sell your home. And so obviously when I saw this, I chuckled, but I had to take a look at it. And when I read through it, this article touches on something that's simply the truth. And that's why it was worth bringing up to you guys. So as you go into this article, right, it talks about, it starts off talking about how the market's changing. If sales continue in 2025 the way they have been, it will surpass 2023 as the worst market in recorded history, based upon the least amount of sales. Now, the worst market in history, I mean, it's relative. Civitas Real Estate Group is having a great year. Now, granted, we've only been open since June, but business has been fantastic since June. I got an agent here next to me who is having a career year, and he's just really taken off and doing great things. So it's bad based upon the number of sales and volume and everything like that. And they want to talk about mortgage rates, et cetera. If you've watched this at all, I think it's an inventory problem. It's an affordability problem. The affordability problem is because of the inventory problem. But nevertheless, it talks about how it's harder and harder to sell homes. And there is some truth to that. There's not as much demand as there was a year ago or 2 years ago. Certainly not as much demand as there was 3 years ago. But it is still a very, very strong seller's market. While you hear about how it's getting more friendly towards buyers, again, it's true, but it's just it's such a strong seller's market that for people to think their home sitting on the market for 3 weeks, 4 weeks before getting an offer is awful, that just goes to show you how short-sighted we are in the real estate marketplace. When I started this, when I was licensed in 2017, it was no thing for houses to sit on the market for 3 months. And that was a balanced market. That's normal, right? So 30 days it's not bad. Everyone expects their house to sell for 3 days at 5% above list price, and it's just not real. So anyways, we've talked about that ad nauseum, and we'll probably talk about that stuff again. So let's take a look at what it's talking about here. So it's harder to sell. So if you want to sell your house, right, you need to bake this original Plum Torte, okay? So ultimately what happened was, they were talking about the difficulty selling on some posts in the New York Times. And then some person talked about how they baked this pie and voila, their house sold, and it's gotten all this attention. All right. Now, here's a couple things real quick. Alas, my house wasn't selling. One commentator wrote about their 1988 home sale. This is almost 40 years ago, guy. 40 years ago. I'd read that the fragrance of baking helps, so I bought a frozen loaf of bread, warmed it in the oven, no sale. Desperate, I baked this torte for an open house. Ta-da! With the kitchen infused with the sweet perfume of the original Plum Torte, the house sold. I mean, okay, still skeptical. But then the article goes and it talks about this. And this is where the truth comes in, right? The science behind the strategy. Unlike sight or sound, which are rooted through the thalamus, scent connects directly through the amygdala, which processes emotion. And that right there is the truth. I talk with my agents all the time about, I say all the time, this sales in general, and specifically consultative sales, is a practice in applied psychology. And our number one job, like the real work in this job, the job is to sell homes, but the real work inside the job is managing and affecting people's emotions, because people make decisions based upon their emotions. People will buy the house. They will walk away from the house. They will counter offer. They will reject the offer or the counter offer, not based on anything except their emotions. I can't tell you how many times I have had a seller who was willing to kill a good deal because something upset them and their emotions got the better of them, and they didn't want anybody, they didn't want to deal with the buyer anymore. They threw all logic to the wind, and their emotions almost killed the deal. And I've had sellers who've killed the deal, who've lost tens of thousands of dollars. Just this year, I had a seller who gave away $27,000 based upon emotion. They were in a negotiation process. The buyer asked for a concession. They didn't like what they heard. They got mad. They got angry. They swore off this buyer as a crook and a swindler. They rejected everything. The deal went sideways. It fell apart. And when they ultimately sold it, it was for $27,000 less than they would have gotten had they have conceded the few grand that first buyer was asking for. Just tragic. I mean, it's really tragic. So the emotion is so important to manage in the course of a deal. And I know a lot of people who think that, they're the intellectual type and they can set emotion aside and simply deal with logic. And you know what, guys, it's bullshit. None of us do that, right? There's a cliche, we make decisions with emotions and we justify them with logic. And that's truth. It's just the truth. The same people who tell me that they just use logic and no emotion, I see them flying off the handle about certain things that within their real estate practices or deals or investments. They totally react with emotion and make decisions based upon their emotions. Handling people's emotions, strategizing, all right, about how are things going to be communicated, presented, negotiated? How is that going to affect the emotions of either the other party, their agent, or my people? That's something there's a strategy and an art behind that, right? And if you're an agent and you're not taking that into account, I guarantee you're missing the boat in a lot of situations. You're not doing the job well, because affecting people's emotions, managing their emotions, and the best way to do that is by setting proper expectations, is the most important thing that we probably do inside of the job of selling houses. So down here, a little bit further in the article, when smell backfires, what buyers actually notice. So, emotions, again, people walk into a house, it smells like cigarette smoke. They want to leave immediately. It doesn't matter how well the house fits them, suits them, their lifestyle, their checklist, because it smells like smoke and they find smoking abhorrent. They want nothing to do with the house. You can fix all that stuff. You can kills, you can paint over, you can replace the carpet. Same thing with pet odor. Same thing with, some mildew. You can fix all these things. They will pass up value and equity and quality, right? Because they're emotionally turned off by the scent inside of a house. Same thing if people got a bunch of Glade plugins around the house, or they got a candle burning that's got a real heavy smell. That might even smell pleasant, but the emotion that is evoked is fear. What are they covering? What are they hiding? So listen, the original Plum Torte is not going to sell your house. However, if you got somebody walking through your house and they like what they see, and the smell of the original Plum Torte, right, evokes the emotion of feeling like they're at home, reminds them of grandma, reminds them of mom, right, who used to bake and make these beautiful things, and it makes them feel comfortable. That might actually be something that puts them over the edge. And it might be, hey, we were going to write an offer anyways, but let's write a stronger offer because now I really want this house because I feel good when I'm here. I felt great and comfortable and at home when I was there, because that scent triggered emotion, right? It is the most powerful factor about the marketplace that we have to deal with. And frankly, that goes for any type of sales. It's not just real estate. It's any type of consultative sales. When you're trying to present a solution, when you're trying to, go into your marketplace, go into your bag of tricks, and there's 1,000 different solutions that you may be able to put together. The one that will convey and evoke the strongest positive emotion is most likely the one that's going to win every single time, right? So that was what I wanted to talk about today. Let's move on into statistics. Oh, by the way, if you would like the recipe for the original Plum Torte, go ahead and scan this QR code I just put in the top right corner and get yourself the recipe for that beautiful confection and make your family happy today. So anyways, let's get into the statistics. Here we go. This is episode 108 of Real Estate Bites. This morning, there were 480 single-family homes and condos active for sale in Lorain County. There were 93 closed sales in Lorain County last week. The median square foot value was 1,872 square feet. The median sales price, was $300,000. Here's the median square foot value, $176.98. Again, prices are going up, guys. I think nationally it was 2% year over year when August sales were recorded. We're following suit here in Northeast Ohio. 176.98. The median days on market, okay, for sales that closed last week were 29. So that's the highest number that we have seen. Let's see. That's the highest number that we've seen for days on market since March. Okay. When the winter was wrapping up and winter being the slowest season in the sales, real estate sales cycle, here we are 6 months later, and we finally seen a higher number, but still not even 30 days. 29 days was the median time spent on the market. Let me remind you again, that's going on the market active, advertising, showing the home, receiving offers, negotiating offers, getting under contract, and then going through the inspection and financing contingencies before it officially comes off the market. All that stuff is still happening in less than a month. All right. This morning, the interest rate on a 30-year conventional mortgage was 6.39%. So we're hovering right there between 6.25% and 6.5%, pretty consistently for the last 6 weeks. And then the big sale of the week was $1,005,000 in Redtail and Avon. Let's go ahead and take a look at this beauty. All right. Usually I skip over Redtail because a lot of them are kind of cookie cutter. We see the same things, but this house is pretty badass, which you'd expect for $1 million, right? Beautiful architecture. I love the brick. I love the pergola out front on top of the porch. The balcony coming off the master right on top of the porch. I mean, I love this architecture here. The lot looks great, right? Let's get on into the interior. Nice 3-season room. What you'd expect. All great appointments inside the home. Open concept. Big, beautiful chef's kitchen. Notice the white. I don't know if you remember when we had Jenny Gennaro on here some time ago, but she talked about color and how important that is. And she said light neutrals or whites throughout makes the room grow, makes the space grow, makes it look clean. And they followed suit here. I mean, all the walls and ceilings are white, white, white. This will never go out of style, guys. When you have a white shell and you decorate and put in pops of color, it's always going to look fantastic. Now, as you can see, this house was unfurnished. Probably would have showed amazing if it was furnished, but nevertheless, it's an amazing house. And not surprised it sold for $1 million there in Redtail. Again, great mix of great texture here inside this 3-season room with your wood tongue and groove ceiling with the brick wall. Yep. Beautiful house. I'm soaring through these pictures because, as beautiful as it is, a lot of these pictures kind of look the same. There's your basement and mechanicals. And again, big, beautiful brick house. And that's it for episode 108 of Real Estate Bites. Thank you guys for joining me once again. Share this with people who might like it. who might want that plum torte recipe. And as always, thanks for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. I'll see you next week.